In this video, we'll be covering Section 2, ProjectWise, for the OHDOT Workspace Basics course. The topics that we're going to be covering within Section 2, ProjectWise, are going to be comprised of ProjectWise Explorer. Some of the subcategories that we will be touching on are the data sources that are housed within ProjectWise Explorer, the OHDOT Projects data source, opening up files within ProjectWise Explorer, and then we'll finish that section off with a quick demo. That brings us to some of the CADD standards and how those are going to be used within ProjectWise Explorer. Then we'll go over the working directory, briefly touch on opening multiple design files, and then finishing that section off with a quick demo. And then that leads us to the end of this section with closing files and some of the options that are within that dialog. So what is ProjectWise Explorer? Well, ProjectWise Explorer is Bentley's engineering project collaboration software. It is used to manage and share and distribute engineering project content. ProjectWise Explorer actually integrates with Bentley applications and other products such as Microsoft Office and in some cases Autodesk as well. As we continue to migrate to ProjectWise Explorer here at ODOT, OpenRoads Designer is going to be the essential tool that's going to be used for your projects to start at this point, and all of these projects will be housed within the ProjectWise work environment. So, as you may know or may not, there are a few different versions of ProjectWise. In this case, we do have ProjectWise Drive, which is one of the newer iterations of ProjectWise. This version of ProjectWise is primarily going to be used for document editing, such as Microsoft Office products and those documents. Now, as we are going to be going through this class, we will be using ProjectWise Explorer. This is primarily because it is used to access design files and editing DGNs and ITL files and all those other ones that are used to design your projects. So this brings me to the data sources that are being used here at ODOT. So if we go over some of the different data sources that are being housed within ProjectWise Explorer for ODOT's use. So let's go ahead and go over some of the ones being shown here on the list. The first one's going to be OHDOT Archive. So what is this used for? This is going to be a read-only repository for completed plan sets. So if you ever need to come back and look at a plan set that has been submitted, you can take a look at those in PDF format. Next will be the OHDOT Projects. This is going to be used for ODOT active projects and will be replacing the iDrive. So anybody that's a legacy ODOT employee will know the old way of doing things prior to ORD. So that also brings me to any new projects that are being submitted or worked on are going to be housed here using the ORD software. Next, let's go over the OHDOT training and testing. This is a sandbox work area, so here at the CADD Mapping Services Group, we do use this area a lot to test our workspace, different tools, and different versions of software prior to being sent out to all the other ODOT districts. So if you've ever taken any of our training classes, you will already have access to this data source and a directory with your name for the training that you've taken. So if you do not have or you've never taken any of our training and you would like to have access to participate in this training course, feel free to reach out to the CADD Mapping Services using the support request, which the link is in the description below, and we'll get you access to this data source so we can create you a directory with your name under the training. So now that I've gone over some of the data sources that are housed within ProjectWise Explorer for ODOT, let's go ahead now and go over the folder structure for the OHDOT Projects data source. As you can see here, we do have a documents folder. Once you expand that, you'll see that we do have a 00 closed, inactive, or canceled projects. So what is this folder? It is an archived projects data and is used for complete or canceled projects. We also have a 01 active projects. What is this intended for? This is actually intended for your active PID projects. So basically all the PID numbers or projects that you will be working on will be housed underneath this one. 02 sold projects. This is going to be your project data location when the project is under construction and no longer being designed. The 03 standards folder is where all the ODOT standards are located. So this pertains to the help documents, some templates, and some other things like cells are located. Now, the Managed Workspace within ProjectWise pulls this data from this standards folder so that all your work sets or PID folders can pull these so that all your projects have the most current ODOT standard. So when you go to design your projects, they are up to date and you can design your projects. The 04 admin configuration, this is going to be a hidden folder. So if you were to go in here and take a look, you most probably won't see this unless you're a CAD administrator of some sort. This access control models on here and other ProjectWise configuration documents. 05 additional projects is an area where projects without a PID or where project could be worked on using the ODOT standards still. This is going to be a pretty rare occurrence that you'll ever have to work in this folder, but if you do, it's typically projects without a PID number, and that folder still has access to the ODOT standards. So let's go ahead and open up the active projects folder, so the 01 active projects. As you can see here, we do have a folder structure. It's organized by district, county, and PID as shown here. And I did really want to quickly note that active projects, as you can see here, we do have the state and district folders, the county, and the _D. What that _D folder is the district-wide projects. And your project PID there, as you can see, what that entails is that this is your project folder. This is where all the project files go, and these are considered work sets within the ProjectWise work environment. So now we're going to go and take a look at opening files within ProjectWise. This will be a quick little demo here, and I'll see you back after the demo. In this demo, I'll be showing you how to find ProjectWise Explorer and ProjectWise Drive within Windows after the software has been installed on your device. So first, let's go over a few of the options to navigate to open up ProjectWise and ProjectWise Drive. First option would be to go to the search bar here on the task menu within Windows. Let's type in ProjectWise. And as you can see, as I type that out, we do get those search options. The second option would be to go to the Start button here within Windows and go to the Bentley folder, and then scroll down to the two pieces of software there. I did also want to mention that a quick little tip here, depending on which version of this software that you use the most, it's always best practice to grab the icon and drop it onto your taskbar so that you can access it quicker in future. So now that we've placed the ProjectWise Explorer icon onto the quick access toolbar of Windows, let's go ahead and left click the icon once to open up ProjectWise Explorer Connect Edition. Once the software is open, you'll see here that we do have a few data sources within the ProjectWise ODOT work environment. So let's go over some of the navigation of the data sources within ProjectWise Explorer. So the first one, as you can see here, we have the OHDOT archive, and this is a read-only repository for most ODOT users. This is where we archive all of the projects here at ODOT. So if we click here on the plus button here, you'll see that it opens up the archive data source. And once that's open, you see that we do have a few different directories being housed within that data source. So if we drill down through those directories, we have the archive projects directory. And then once we have that open, you'll see that we have the plan vault here. We also have the ORO files as well. So let's expand those. And as you can see, we do have the districts under here. If we click on District 1, we'll see all of the read-only files that are being stored here. Each one of these files that's read-only, you can see that there's a book next to that document. Next, let's go and open up the OHDOT projects. Before I move on to the next section, I did want to briefly show you how I like to move between the data sources within ProjectWise Explorer. As you can see, I was able to collapse this data source, and you can see on this data source that we have logged into, we have a check mark. Now you can open up multiple data sources at a time, so let's go ahead and click on the plus button for the OHDOT projects. And when I do that, you can see that the icon changes on the previous one that I had open so that it closes that one temporarily while I open up the other one. So for best practice, what I like to do if I'm moving between data sources, I always like to right click on the data source that I left and log out, and you'll get prompted to close that data source. The reason why I suggest to do this workflow is so that if you have any files that are still open to you or checked out, you'll be notified as you check out of that data source that you can free or check in the document. As you can see up here, they're currently grayed out because I don't have any, but that is one of the options, and that's why I consider that a best practice. So let's go ahead and close out of that, and you'll see now that that icon has now disappeared next to that data source. So let's go over the OHDOT project's data source. As you can see here, we do have a few different directories within this data source. We have the documents, and then we have our standards and active projects and sold projects. Now, some externals may have access to our sold projects, but for the most part, all ODOT employees have access to those two folders there, the 01 and 02, and the 06 projects, training projects as well. But this is where we house all of our 03 standards here, so that when your projects, you open up the work sets. So let's go ahead and open up the sold projects. We do have our districts here and the counties, and these right here are what we consider our work sets. Now, if I open this, we'll see the ODOT standard folder configuration. So most of the employees, you'll see this more often as you get more acclimated to working on projects here at ODOT. Let's check that back in. Next, I wanted to touch on the training and testing data source. Let's click on the plus button here. As you can see here, the OHDOT Training and Testing Data Source is a mirrored version of the OHDOT Projects Data Source. This is so that when you come here and you do the training courses that we offer to our internal users, you'll be accessing this 06 training projects. And then what we'll do throughout this course, you'll need to access this folder here. So if you don't have these folders, so you haven't taken the class previously, or you're a new employee, feel free to reach out to us at the CAD and Mapping Services group via service requests, and we'll get that folder set up for you. As I've stated before, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. All of the links are in the description, so that if you have any questions or you need help with anything, we do have our wiki page on there and any other links that you may need throughout the course. So now that I've gone over some of the data sources provided here by ODOT within ProjectWise Explorer, I just wanted to briefly go over some of the different icons you may come across when navigating and opening up some of the design files within those data sources within ProjectWise Explorer. I just wanted to touch on a few of the common icons you may come across within ProjectWise Explorer. So as you can see here, we do have a few of them. So let's start at the pencil that you see here, which is read and write access. So what this indicates is that the user can check out the file for revisions. While the file is checked out locally, the file is on the server and is locked for other users. Next, we have the book here, which indicates read-only access. This symbol means that the user can read the file but cannot edit the file. The user can view the file but remains available and unlocked to other users. Next, we have the red check mark there, and what this indicates is checked out by you. So what this means is a copy of the file has been sent to your local working directory for editing. The file remains locked to others until the file is checked back in by you. So this brings me to the padlock here. And what this indicates is that the file is locked. The file is being accessed by other users, which means that it's checked out or exported out to your local drive and is not available. Users can still open this as read-only, but you will not see the changes that have been made to that file. Next, we have a floppy disk. What that means is the file has been exported by you. The file is typically exported to a local folder and then worked on outside of the ProjectWise work environment. This is not a recommended workflow, but in some cases you may have to do this. But it is good to know that when finished, the file needs to be re-imported back into ProjectWise to see those changes. Next, tag here, and this icon means final status. So this is that the file is permanently locked for all users, and no changes can be allowed to be made to this file, and is technically an archive status. So if you ever come across this by accident and the file shouldn't be in final status, you'll have to reach out to the CAD mapping services to have this file unlocked again so that you can re-edit the file. So you may be wondering what happens to a file when you go to open it up within the ProjectWise work environment. We've come up with a diagram here that gives you a brief overview of how the process works when checking in and out of project files within ProjectWise Work Explorer. I'm just going to go over this diagram real quick to help you better understand what the process of that. All the files are stored within the ProjectWise Work Explorer cloud, and when you've opened up ProjectWise Explorer, you can check in and out of files. User 1 has checked out the BP001 file, and it indicates to them, the user, that red check mark. And that process there, when you've checked that out, it is downloading that file and all the other associated files to your working directory to the hard drive there, as you can see. Once that is loaded, can make those changes to the document. Now within that process, user 2 within ProjectWise will see that document as a padlocked file. The user can at this point still open that file, but they will not see the changes that have been made by user 1. The only way that user 2 can see those changes is if user 1 either checks it back in or updates server copy. And then user 2 can see that updated version of the document. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the CAD standards and where those are located within the OHDOT project's data source. So as you can see here, we do have that located as the O3 standards folder, which is located underneath the documents directory. So if we expand that out, we do have some subdirectories underneath the O3 CAD standards. So we're just going to briefly go over some of those and what they pertain. So the publications. This folder has the L&D Volume 3 documents, and this is where those reside. And as you can see, we do have the ORD sample plans. We also have some of the V8I sample plans under this directory here. And then we have the CAD standards. Now, this is where the ProjectWise data source is pulling that for the managed workspace for the work sets. So if we were to open this, we would see all the different standards that we have that can be used with a managed workspace. You also see here we do have help documents. So this will be all the help documents to help you use some of the applications that we have, or just some general help documents. The pick list is going to house some of the bridge standards and some of the other pick items. And then we have a ProjectWise templates folder. This is where all the ProjectWise templates are held, and this is usually going to be only accessed by the ProjectWise team. So what's going on behind the scenes with ProjectWise? So ProjectWise maintains a copy of the OHDOT CE V2 workspace standards under your local drive of your computer. Once you've downloaded a DGN file for one of your projects to open the file within ORD, this will help provide faster access to the CAD standards compared to accessing from a remote location. So for example, if you were to open up a local file from central office or any of the district offices from a VPN to a local drive, this is what ProjectWise does best in making it so that you don't have to go through VPN. So the first time you open up a file or a work set in ProjectWise, the CAD standards are copied locally from the ProjectWise server onto your hard drive. Copying all the CAD standards locally does take a few minutes for the first time that you've opened up a file. A complete set of CAD standards is a one-time process, so you shouldn't have to do anything unless there is a change to the CAD standards. Then it will need to find and replace those files that have changed. So this is what ProjectWise is used for, is so that everybody is working off of the same standards and files so that everybody can be in sync when opening and closing design files. So what is the working directory? So the working directory is what ProjectWise maintains for a local folder for each work set. The first time opening a data source, you will see a pop-up that states that the working directory will be created in this location being shown here, and you'll just need to click the yes button to activate the first time opening of this file. And you'll see here, when you've clicked yes, you will get this pop up for the Manage Configuration Export process. This process may take a little bit longer depending on your network connection and how many files are being exported to your working directory. So now that I've gone over the working directory and what that is and some of the other processes within ProjectWise Explorer, let's go ahead now and go to the demo for opening multiple design files. And I'll see you back after this demo and we'll continue on with this section. In this demo, we'll cover some of the dialogues you may come across when opening up ProjectWise and accessing a data source for the very first time, and where that working directory is being created and located on your local drive. And we'll also cover opening multiple MicroStation design files and how to access that option. And then we'll finish off with closing some of the design files and what you may come across when checking in a design file and that dialog box that pops up after you've X'd out of the file. So first, let's go ahead and open up ProjectWise Explorer. So you can access this from your Windows Quick Access toolbar. So let's go ahead and open up that. And as you can see here, we do have ProjectWise Explorer Connect Edition open. And let's go ahead and open up the testing and training data source. So let's go ahead and double click on the data source. And as you can see here, we do have the ProjectWise Explorer dialog showing up saying that it wants to create a working directory. This comes up only when you haven't accessed that data source before. In this case, let's go ahead and create this working directory under this location here. So let's go ahead and click yes. Alright, now this process is going to create that data source link to your local C drive. Let's go ahead and show you where that would be located. So if I bring over File Explorer, we navigate to the C drive here, and as you can see, when I go to refresh this, we now have an OHDOT directory here. So if we click on this, we will go down to that working directory. As you can see, right now it's currently empty because I have not accessed any of the data source data, so that would include your work sets and your project files. We may revisit this File Explorer dialog here once we've accessed the training data source. So let's go ahead and navigate to 06 Training Projects, which is located here, and you'll navigate to your folder name. Now, if you don't have a folder name here, you can reach out to the CAD Services group and we will create you one of these so that you can participate in this training. As an external user, you'll have to reach out to your CAD administration team to create that directory. So let's go ahead and now I'm going to click on mine, and now we'll navigate to the design training data source here, and then we'll drill down to the engineering. We'll go to roadway, and then we'll go to base maps. First, let's go ahead and open up the very first BK file here. And you'll just double click that. You'll just open up that file. In my instance, I have it set to open with automatically, so I can choose the version of software that I want to open up this file in. The reason I do this is so that I can open it as read-only, or it just gives me the option so I don't accidentally open up a file in the wrong version of the software. But if you have one version of software across your organization, kind of like we do here at ODOT, you may not need that option. So let's go ahead and click OK, and then now it's going to download that file to my C drive. So as you can see, it's going to download that Manage Configuration Export process here, and it'll tell you at the different points of what it's downloading and where it's going to be downloading this. So right now I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll pick it back up once this has completed that process. I did want to mention that this process may take a little bit of time depending on which standards you're downloading or which data source you're opening, and the files that are retained within that design file. So once the files for this work set has been downloaded to the working directory, MicroStation will open up that file and you'll be working in that file locally. So if we were to go to that working directory, you'll see that now, as before, it was an empty folder underneath the working directory, and now we have all those project files. So let's go ahead now and open up a second file. So to do this, so I'll minimize that real quick, and let's hold down the Shift key and let's select BK002. Once you've held down the Shift key, you'll then want to double click the left mouse button, and then let's select the software that we want to open this up in. And as you can see here, now we have both of these files checked out. So you can also do this by holding the Shift key down and right-clicking and select Open as read-only. So you can use this option to kind of navigate one of the other files that you need to look at just to get a measurement or anything from the read-only file, so that you could still have the other file open to modify the design file. So once this is open, you'll see here we can actually, in the option that I selected, modify both of the design files at the same time. So what I like to do, if I have both of these open and I have only one screen, or I just want to be able to show you guys what that would look like, I'll just drag over here to the left, and then Windows will prompt me on which file I want to show. And as you can see, I do have both of these design files open, and if I open up ProjectWise, you can see I have them both checked out. So let's go ahead and close the BK002 file, so I can show you the prompt of what the check-in document looks like. And if I drag this back to the screen, as you can see here, when you close out of a file, you will get a prompt to add either a comment here, so if you've made any changes that you want to note for the next designer or the engineer looking at the plan, or you can create new version here on check-in, and then you put in the version that you want to make for that major change of that file. In this case, let's go ahead and check this in. You can also update server copy or free the document. So free the document, what that does is if you do not want to save those changes that you made to that file, so let's say something got messed up or you don't want that change to be saved, you just free the document. But in this case, we didn't do anything, so I'm just going to check in the document. And as you can see there, when I checked that version, it created a new version as well. So that concludes the demo for opening multiple design files within ProjectWise Work Environment and the check-in dialog you will see when closing multiple design files within the ProjectWise Work Environment. So I just really wanted to break down the check-in dialog box when you do get this when checking in a design file. So let's go ahead and break down some of the options that you have within this check-in dialog. So the first one's going to be the check-in button here on the left. And what this button does is it uploads any document changes to the ProjectWise servers. So anything that you've copied out, any of the design files you made changes, those changes are being made to your local copy outside of ProjectWise and are available in your working directory. These show up to everyone else that has this as this red check mark here, as you can see within the dialog. So once you've hit check in, those changes will be seen by other users to modify that file. Next we have update server copy. What this entails is updates any of the changes to ProjectWise but keeps the file checked out to you. This can also be accessed within ORD, within the file drop down, the backstage, and then you'll see there that we'll have update server copy. Next we have the free button. What this does is it checks in the document back into ProjectWise, but ignores any of the local changes within your working directory. And this command also purges any of the document changes on your local working directory as well. So this is a good option if you've ever opened up a file and made some changes and come to find out that you didn't need to make those changes or something happens to the file as you open it. It's always a good practice just to close the file and free that document. Next we have the close button. So what this button does is dismisses the check-in window with no changes. The document remains locked and checked out to you. So any user that needs to get into this file will not be able to access this except for you. If you've ever hit the close button by accident, there is another way to check this file in or free this file. It's to just right click and navigate to those options that you want to use. So additional ProjectWise training resources, those will be available in the video description below. So if you ever have any more training needs, we do have those on our wiki page. And as I stated, we do have the link below. And I just wanted to quickly mention that you can now continue on to section 3, the OHDOT CADD Standards overview. And if you ever have any questions related to this video or any of the training videos, feel free to reach out to us at the CAD Services Service Request form here, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.